I like to make my mistaken predictions public and more public than when I get it right. When I said coming out of the Washington Post, who leaked the fake story to the Washington Post, and I said my prediction is either Raffensperger or Watson, the elections investigator, and it turned out to be, forget the person's name now, and so Jordan Fuchs. So I went to Twitter.
I might have had another name for his last name when I was in Georgia.
No, we'll go with Fuchs because it's German. It's sure Germanic descent. I went to Twitter and I said, look, I guess I got it wrong because it's not one of the two I mentioned. And then someone said, dude, the person was nominated by Raffensperger. It's as good as a win. And then someone underneath him said, I think he was just being tongue in cheek. I wasn't. I was prepared to recognize that I got that one wrong, but now I'm prepared to accept that I got it relatively right. And I mean, let's talk about this because a lot of things going on with this. The Washington Post issues not even a retraction, a correction, 2 months after the bombshell of the report that Trump said, go in and find the F. And 2 months later, they have to say, yeah, our quote was wrong. It was someone who heard the conversation, direct quoting him. And so, yeah, he didn't say it. And then they go, they change the narrative to just removing the quotes and paraphrasing or rephrasing. So the two things. First of all, now I forgot the first question. Okay, the first question was, is there nothing illegal about this? Is there nothing illegal about?
Potentially in two areas. One is Fuchs may have been in Florida at the time of recording the call, if he was part of the recording of it.
Jordan's a woman, I discovered, by the way.
Yeah, she. I'm sorry. I don't want to misgender him, misgender her. I'll go to jail in Canada. But but yeah. So if that's the case, then that may be problematic under Florida law. It's not clear to me that that's the case. If it's in Georgia, no problem. Georgia's a one-party state. And it appears that they didn't lie or hide the evidence, even though they kind of tried to, because they just put it in. One person kept a copy of it, put it in their trash on the computer. People need to remember, you need to empty that trash. Otherwise, it's still there on your computer. And even then, by the way, it's kind of still there on your computer if you don't know. But people think things are protected in ways that are not. The breadcrumbs everywhere digitally, unless you blow the thing up, and even then you better make sure you really do it.
Unless you bleach bit it or wipe it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go Hillary style. You got to kill it.
Bleach bit. So the two questions here. I mean, I'm not sure about the context. It was Emily Watson is the elections investigator. Yep. Who was recording the conversation? That was a decision made by Watson, the investigator herself.
That's what's unclear to me. It's unclear whether she recorded it or Jordan recorded it, or whether both of them did. So that part is not crystal clear, and that will have a fact. But assuming that it was just the investigator, then there's no problems with it. I'm sure some people advised Trump not to be personally calling people, but this is Trump. He thought he could persuade anybody. It was ill-advised. Now the mediation call, different animal. He had to be on that. And so we'll see but it's problematic, but unlike the mediation call being leaked, this call probably wasn't legally prohibited from being leaked, wasn't legally prohibited from being recorded. It was just the media lying about Trump and then trying to kind of backstep, but many of them didn't fully backstep. But it more evidence that they consistently but what it really does is it exposes Ratburger for the fraud that he is. And his whole office was. They've been trying to play this dutiful, hardworking elected officials just trying to do our job. No, they weren't. They were repeatedly lying. They lied to the state of Georgia. They lied to President Trump. They lied to his lawyers. They lied to everybody involved. And now they just got caught spreading those lies with the help of the media.
So this is the question. I just brought it up. Wrong one.
Yeah, there were two different calls.
calls.
The call that was recorded that actually was released from the get-go was the mediation call. Then there was a second call that was the actual call itself. They said that didn't exist, the recording of it. And they claimed that the investigator said things that the investigator later confirmed it never said. She said that was interesting, the president called, but she didn't feel intimidated at all. They just buried that. And instead, they highlighted what apparently Fuchs and others were saying. Ratburger's key allies. He had about 4 key allies. Gabriel Sterling was another big one. who got caught, by the way, with people voting illegally from his home. I mean, that's what kind of genius that guy was. So just a disgrace down there in Georgia with the election. But it's what all these are Republican establishment people, all of them. And they're not Democrats. They're Republican establishment people. And that should tell you why the election problems we had.
Well, so two legal questions. The first one was the mediation meeting, or what's his name? David, the chairperson for the GOP in Georgia. He's the one who tweeted that it was a settlement discussion conference call, illegally recorded and illegally released.
Yes.
Someone had said that that's not true because one of the attorneys in the file was not on the call, so it couldn't have been a settlement call.
Oh, it was absolutely a settlement conference. First of all, you don't have to be on the file to be on the mediation conference. That's totally misunderstanding. In fact, it's almost always the case that you have somebody on the call who hasn't appeared, usually general counsel for the client if it's a corporation. So that's anybody who thinks that's completely misguided. Secondly, it's supposed to be confidential. So recording it, okay, that isn't a separate violation. You could argue it's a violation of the expectation of privacy, but probably not. Releasing it is. And it was always, and yet there's been no consequences for that, unfortunately, in Georgia, because all the prosecutorial branches of power are so politicized, and it's the Republican establishment who's corrupt down there, and they have all allies in the Republican-controlled position. But no, it was a mediation. People can go back and listen to the call. They say it at the beginning. I mean, it's a settlement conference, and that's done pursuant to mediation rules under state law. The Georgia Republican Party chairman who tweeted about that would know because he was a party to the case. I was involved in helping to craft the case, but wasn't representative counsel at the time. But if I had appeared on the call, that wouldn't magically no longer make it a mediation confidentiality call. For opposed to no, most mediations have people there that are not parties to the case and they're not lawyers to the case because they have negotiating authority or they're relevant to the case. That's why. This happens in depositions. People can watch a deposition who aren't a party to the case depending on the circumstances. If they're like expert witnesses in certain cases, associates who may not be listed on the file, so on and so forth. You can object, but frankly, only losers like that loser who, well, I won't name him again, but
so okay, that was the first question about the legality of that call. The one party, two party consent states. This is one question I have not been able to. I think it's an easy answer, but if there's a call being recorded between two states, so she's in Florida, which might be a two party consent state, recording for someone who's in a one party consent state. Does it matter who's doing the recording, or does one law trump the other?
It's because they consider it whoever's where you are at when you're recording, it's that state's laws that govern. So it can get tricky if you're recording someone that's in a jurisdiction that requires two-party consent. But the general rule is if you're located physically in a jurisdiction where it's legal, then it's considered legal. If it's illegal where you're at, it's definitely illegal.
Okay.
And so if they were involved in recording it from Florida, that would be a problem.
All right, we've got Ricky L. Hendricks says, I've been told by a lawyer that phone calls are federal jurisdiction and that feds are a two-party jurisdiction. Would it matter what the state says?
Feds are a one-party jurisdiction. The federal law is one party. Only need one-party consent for interstate calls. And so that's why federal law will almost never come into play.
Okay, and now Cleopatra, I'm bringing this up just to say we talked about this in the first 30 or 45 minutes.